Good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys all here. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Lucy Pinon, and I'm honored and humbled to be here to present this information to you about our Pee Posh Pottery. We've provided some history on our Pee Posh Pottery, and we'll be discussing the process of how to make our pottery as well in detail. So I hope you guys are nice and comfortable, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So Pee Posh and Maricopa are the same name. Maricopa is our English name. Pee Posh is our native name. And just a really quick history on our people. We do have Maricopas both in Salt River and Gila River. So the difference between the two, we're both the same tribe, the same people, same language. We're actually even related to each other, I'm sure. But the difference there is just the spelling. The spelling with Gila River is Pee Posh, P-E-E-P-O-S-H, and the spelling with Salt River is P-I-I-P-A-A-S-H. I'm looking for August, right? So that's the only difference between the two, but they are the exact same tribe, just two different locations of where we're at. So let's go ahead and get started. Our family has had pottery we've had pottery in our family for going on 6 generations now. And so it's been quite a while, but we practice the same practices that have been taught to us. And we haven't changed anything. We try not to. We try not to change anything. This here, there's 2 types of pottery. There's many different types of pottery. Come on in, get comfortable. Many types of pottery. But the difference between these 2 pottery here, this here on the left is an Oya. This and that's our original traditional pottery. The one on the right is our modern pottery. The Oyas, or they're not necessarily an Oya, but it's a storage pot. So those pots were used for full use. They were used to hold water. They were used to store grains. They were used to cook with. So they were made very durable. And the process of making them is actually a little bit different than the way we make them now. And I'll explain it, why or how that process changed and why it changed. At the bottom it says the Maricopa people were small bands living along the lower Gila and Colorado rivers. Each of these bands migrated eastward at different times. The Hajledom, left the area in 1825 to 1830. And the Hajledom is the Maricopas of the Lehigh and Salt River area. And the last of these bands is said to have left the Colorado River in the late 1830s. So eventually these bands came together and became collectively known as the Pee Posh, which are the Maricopas here within Gila River. So it was the same band of tribes that just traveled down and left at different times. And some migrated further down and some stayed here within Gila River. And so that's how we became where we reside now. So the Maricopa pottery, way back when I was younger, way before then. But when I was younger, I do remember seeing some pictures of some ladies that were sitting out in front of a market, or just the store selling their pottery. And they were sitting out there with the blanket, and they had all their pieces of pottery out there. And they had them. I wish I could find that picture. I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it, but I remember seeing it. I don't know if it was maybe at my grandma's or somewhere, but I remember seeing it. But the ladies had their potteries out there, and they were selling them for 5 cents, 10 cents, and that was the price that was going at that time. And so they're very, very inexpensive. But back then, it was a lot, And so they made the pots to make money, to purchase things. And as the potters there was a pottery group that came together, which is the Maricopa Pottery Cooperative. is what it was called. And that was in 1937, where there was a group of women that came together with the assistance of, I can't remember, I don't know her name, but it was a person from the outside. And she came together to help them to promote the pottery and to help, build the prices of the pottery. And so I guess nowadays you would reference it as like a promoter. And so they formed this group, and it was a total of 19 women. Ida Redbird, she was the one that helped lead this. Mary Wan, Vesta Bread, who is my great-grandma. Mabel's son, Alma Lawrence, and I don't know all the other potters' names, but there was a total of 19. Something that I should say too is that I don't claim to be an expert. I don't know everything about pottery, but what I do know, I'm gladly sharing. All this information that I do know was passed down from my mom, my grandma, and my great-grandma. And so that's what I'm sharing with you guys today. So I'm not an expert, but I'm just sharing with what I know. The pottery artists of the past, again, were Ida Redbird, Mary Wan, Vesta Bread, your mother, Phyllis Cerna. Vesta was my great-grandma. Phyllis Cerna was my grandma. Mabel's son, Alma Lawrence, Barbara Johnson, Grace Monahan, Mary Johnson, Gladys, your mother, Emily Pachero, Gertrude Stevens, Loretta Bread, who's my great-aunt, Thurlin Bread, Dorothea's son. And those were just a few of the potters way back then. And the current potters now are Burl Jane Stevens, Yolanda Stevens, Kevin Stevens, my mom Antoinette Pinon, and myself. So out of all of that, these are the only potter makers of Hill River. There are potter makers in Salt River, and they were taught and led by the late Ron Carlos. Ron Carlos had made beautiful, beautiful pottery. He was a perfectionist. He made beautiful, beautiful, not only pottery, but anything that he touched was beautiful. And so he took a class that my grandma had given over in Salt River, and that's where his artwork began. And so my grandma had asked him, can you see yourself doing this every day? And he's like, yeah, I guess. If you know Ron, that was his answer. He's like, yeah, and then from there, that's what started his passion for pottery making as well. And so he was teaching people there in Salt River too. So there are people that do practice the Pee Posh pottery, and but there isn't very many. I know his cousin Nicole Carlos, Mr. August Wood here. August was an apprentice of Ron, and August makes beautiful pottery too. He's not going to admit it, but he makes beautiful pottery. And let's see. So that is our little history of pottery. The materials that we use for making this, everything is natural, completely natural. The clay that we use is caliche. We use a pounding stone. I know a lot of people hear grinding stone, but we use a pounding stone because we actually pound. We don't. Grinding is more like this when you're grinding wheat or something, but we're actually pounding our dirt. Water, our paddles, our molds, our red dirt, stones, mesquite wood, and mesquite sap. So I'll go into detail as we're going along of how we use all these materials, but those are the materials that it takes to make pottery. So don't laugh. I didn't get kidnapped by the cartel. You can edit that if you want, right? So this is our caliche. This is how we gather our caliche. Here is what it looks like when it's just in the ground. This was a picture after it rained, so it kind of covered up our spot. So we have to dig. Is anybody familiar with caliche? Yes. It's very, very hard. It's like cement. So usually you'll find it about a good 2-3 feet down into the ground. But you can see like the layers in here on the second picture here. That's dirt on top, and then down below here is the caliche. Do you see the white in the dirt? So that's the caliche, and it's very hard. We use not only shovels, but we have to use pickaxe, crowbars, something very, very, very strong to get it out. And when you're hitting it with the crowbar, it's like scraping, barely scraping it. So it's a lot of work. All right, so I was saying that with the dirt here, we don't want to mix the dirt with the caliche because it weakens the pot when we start making it. So we want to make sure it's kept separately, and we want to get strictly caliche if we can. It's not impossible. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of dirt in there, but the goal is to get straight caliche. So we dig that out, and the next step is pounding the clay, the caliche. So here we have our pot. That's probably like the only thing, maybe a few things are purchased, but everything else is natural. And then that is our pounding stone right there. So this is our caliche. It's in rocks, and so we have to pound it. And I have my big, strong son right there with his monster hands that are pounding. And this is a great source of de-stressing. Taylor knows this. This is my daughter, Taylor, here. She sometimes she gets stressed out. She's like, "Mom, do you need any dirt pounded?" It's like, "Oh yeah." So we pound it until it gets to a fine powder form, which you'll see all the way over there on the right. And once, I kind of mixed up the pictures, but once we're there at that fine powder, then we'll screen the, oh no, I didn't mix it up, sorry. We'll screen the dirt, because what that's doing is taking out the sand, any debris that might be in there. We sometimes see roots, just some debris that goes in there. But we take out the sand because if there's sand or pebbles that are in there, once it goes into the firing process, they tend to pop the pottery. So this is a very important step that must take place. Here is our mixing part. So this is the hydrating part. This is where we make our clay. When we have our dirt, it can stay like that for as long as we need it. It'll stay in our bucket or whatever until my mom says, "Okay, mix me some dirt." So when it comes time for that, then that's when we add water to it, mix it up, pound it until it becomes our clay form. And that's when it's ready for pottery making. I take that back. We wait 24 hours for it to settle, to set, and then we'll start making pottery the next day with the clay. So here, this is what it looks like as it's gonna be made. This one here is the very start of it. You see my mom hiding back there behind that one. And then these are just all the different types of potteries that we make. Those two right there, those are wedding vases. That's what you see up here. And that is my beautiful grandma, Phyllis Serna, right there. My mom is hiding in the back. This was a long time ago. My grandma was demonstrating at the Arts and Crafts Museum there in that picture. To make the pots, to get them started, we use our molds, which is this. So we make our own molds. And the way we make them is just like how we make a pottery, but we make them thicker and it doesn't have a bottom, so it has to be completely round. So we'll get the clump of clay, we'll place it on here, and then we'll use our paddles. Macham? I was telling my mom, I was like, I can never get this right. One is macham, which is that, and mat'am. So a macham is a paddle. I got it right. Macham and mat'am is the mold. And so we place the clay on here, which this is called mat. So we'll place it on here. The paddles will take the shape. We'll start shaping the pottery. These different paddles, they do different things. So the ones with the curves, obviously, are really good for the base of it to start it, to get the curve, the round part of the pot going. This one is heavier, it's bigger, and this will be great for to start something big like this. These are really good to start small ones. This was actually my grandma's paddles. When our loved ones pass away, we usually put everything in the ground with them. And so, but she wanted us to have these, so that's why we still have them. And so those are hers. And then we have all size molds. These are the small ones to get our little pots going, which would be about the size of this. And they're built with coils. So once we start out with one clump of clay, which will build this, and then to build it up will be a coil added onto the pot to get it to this whatever size we need. I should also say that you're welcome to ask any questions at any time. Don't wait, because if you're like me, you'll forget, and yeah, I forget all the time. So feel free to ask at any time. This is just another example. Oh wait, no, this is the smoothing part. So once our pottery's done, not done, but once our pottery's finished with the shape that we want it, we then use the smoothing stones here to smooth out the pot. And the reason why this part is so important is because when we're making the pottery, there's little granules that are on the outside of the pot. And using the stones to rub on the pot, it's pushing all the little granules inside. So when it comes polishing time, it doesn't scratch. It doesn't scratch the pottery. And so this is a very, very important step. And as you guys came in, you guys seen all the beautiful pottery that were out there and how sleek and shiny. If they didn't do this part, it would be rough looking and scratched. And so this is a part that's very important. Let's see what else. And this one here, our pottery, when it dries, it's the white color here. And did I do it? No. In order to get it red, like I said, everything is natural. What do you think we use? Fire. Huh? Fire. Fire? It's fired, but later. But what do we use to turn it red? It's not paint. What? Sap. Sap? Yes. So that's later. That's later. I'm not going to tell you what part, but that's later. But the red part of the pottery, what would it be? Mud. The red clay. The red clay. The red dirt. The red dirt. So it's not something we can get from Home Depot. It's not red paint from Home Depot. It's the red dirt that long time ago they used to get it. There's some out here in the mountains. It's not as red. That's why you'll see on some of the pots out here, there's different shades of red. Some are like a lighter, more like a brown, orange, deep red. But we'll travel up north, like to Sedona area, and we'll get it there. My mom's had me jump off the truck a couple times, like, go get me some dirt, and she sees something good on the side of the road. So we tend to have like a bag or a bucket or something with us. So that right there, that's a process in itself. All right, so there is a process in making the red paint as well. Like I said, it's dirt, so we have to clean it, strain it. What we do is we'll get the bucket of dirt, we'll add water to it, swish it around, mix it up completely, strain it in like a screen to get all the rocks, the debris, anything that might be in there so that it's nice and clean. And then we'll strain it again with a cloth, like a material. And so that way, anything that goes through the material is going to be the straight paint. So we're using water and the dirt to allow it to go through the cloth material. With that process, we like to do it in the summertime because once we strain it in there, we have to leave it alone and let it separate. So the red paint is in there, and we have to allow time for the water to separate from the paint. Then we slowly take out just the water without mixing it. And like I said, the summer's the best time to do it because it's hot, it evaporates quicker. And so we'll slowly take out little parts of the water until we get down to the very bottom of the clay, and then we just let it dry out. I should have been passing this around, but this is what the dirt looks like, the red clay. And once it's dried out, this is what we're left with. So this is ready to go. Whenever we're ready to paint, we'll just add water to it, and then it gives us this liquid form right here. It gives us a liquid form, and then we'll apply the paint onto the pot, just like this one here, or that one here. We'll apply it with a cloth, and it has to be nice and even so that there isn't any white pieces of the pot still showing. So once it's applied on, then we'll start to polish. These pots, a lot of people think that there's glaze on there, but there's no glaze. If you see how shiny they are, there's no glaze at all. They're stone polished. So we have different stones. How I mentioned that we had the smoothing stones after the pots were made, we then also have the polishing stones. So these stones are very, very smooth, sleek. These stones right here are actually my grandma's. So it's such a good feeling, like to be able to hold something that my grandma held and used over and over and over. You could tell the use that was, like how much use it's had because of how smooth it is on the outside. And it just kind of takes the shape of your hand. You wouldn't think a rock would change, but a rock does change. And so these are the polishing stones. So every stroke that's taken onto a pot, like this, if I had two hands, every stroke that's taken onto a pot brings out the shine. And so imagine sitting there over and over and over and over and over the entire pot. And that's actually done twice. So the first step is called scribbling. I mean, that's just what my grandma called it, scribbling, because you're pretty much just scribbling. You're scribbling all over the pot, which is preparing the pot for the final polishing stage. Sorry. So the second part is shining, the shining part. And so you'll reapply another coat of paint and then use the same stones and do the exact same thing. But the second part is more precise. And so as you're going over the pot, you're going one right over the other one. The first step was a little messy. You're just preparing the pot. But the second one is one right over the other. So if you look very, very closely at the pots and these, you'll be able to see the strokes that are taken on the pot. And you can see the direction that was taken on there too. And so a lot of the pots get complicated because of like the creases in here, or like if they go inside, or if there's animals that are made, like the little crevices that are in there. So it's very, very time consuming. This part, you'll get hand cramps, you'll get neck cramps. But this is how the pottery become nice and shiny. So after that is our firing stage. Right here, we do have our own firing system. We don't put our potteries in a kiln, but we build our own. We use long time ago they used to use cottonwood because that's what was around. That's what was available. The type of wood that we use is important to have it nice and clean, that it burns nice and clean. If we were to use like eucalyptus or something like that, it'll smoke and it'll get on the pottery. So we have to use cottonwood or mesquite, or just some type of wood that burns very, very clean. But there is a difference between the cottonwood and the mesquite as it's burning. The cottonwood burns very fast and hot. And so we have to take that into consideration as we're firing. The mesquite burns slow and hot, but so we have to compensate on what we're using. So, and it also depends if we're making big pots or little pots, or if we're doing a small firing or big firing. The tub that we use is a galvanized tub. That one's also another thing that's purchased, sorry. A galvanized tub, but before we use it, we have to burn it. We have to burn the shiny stuff off, the galvanized part off. So, because if we don't, if you put it in there, if you put your potteries in there before doing that, it's gonna flake off and it's gonna get on the pottery. So we burn it off and then we can use it. We then use, again, the mesquite around there. We enclose it with tin and we let it burn for about a good 30, 45 minutes. Yeah, just depending on what we're firing and how much we're firing. And tragedy does happen. That's the chance with the pottery. So that right there was one of the most tragic times of the firing. For whatever reason, we don't know. It could be that there's pebbles in there that causes the potteries to pop. It could be just the mixture of the clay. There's many reasons. But that day, I do remember it was like popcorn just going off. And it's like, no, just stop already. But I think maybe 2 survived. 1 or 2, I think, might have survived out of that one. But something with that too, with the shards, like the broken pieces, we can reuse them, not in the way of remaking pottery like this, but we can use them for like oyas. So we can grind them up, because like I said earlier, to make the oyas, to make the cooking pots, or like the other ones, it's a different process in making those. They have to be made stronger. So we can grind those up. That's going to take a lot of work because it's fired already, but we can grind those up and use that as well to put in the mixture. Any questions? Yes, Missy.
What are the little pebbles in the pots that got removed?
So those we actually try to do little clay beads. Miss Yolanda Stevens, she makes clay beads, and we were gonna, I forgot what we were gonna make with it. We were gonna do something with it, but that's what those are. Those are little clay beads. Does somebody else have a question? Yes.
So, do you guys use the gallon juice now? What did they use back then to make the potteries? Like your grandma and your great grandma?
My great grandma used tubs like this, like a tin tub. I'm not exactly sure what kind it was. Maybe it was like those barrels for they use to feed the horses and stuff. Like not the plastic ones, but the tin ones. Yeah. But they did use tubs like that too. Way back when, they didn't make. I'm sorry, I should have touched on that too. They didn't make the potteries the way we make them now. They made them for use. They made them for cooking. They made them for water. So they didn't have this decoration on here. So they burned them straight in the fire to make them strong. And they didn't have to be. If we were to put these straight in the fire, they would have black spots on them. They would have burn spots on them, and they would be overbaked. And we had somebody, this one lady, she was making pottery, and she said, "What happened? They turned out black." And I was like, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "Well, I put them in the tub. I put them in the fire, and then I put the tub over them." I was like, "Wait, you put them in the direct fire?" And she's like, "Yeah, and I put the tub over them." I was like, "No, you put the tub down, and then you put the potteries inside." And so they were completely black. But so that's what would happen to these potteries here. But back then, that's how it was fired. Was there another question? No? Okay. Okay, so here's a question. You see the pottery right here with the black design. What is the black design? What do we use to make the black design? I think somebody said it earlier. The tree sap. What kind of tree? Mesquite. Yay, you guys all passed. All right, so this is a process as well. This process is very, very tricky. So we gather the bark from the mesquite tree, and when we're gathering it, what we're looking for is the most juiciest part of the sap that's running onto the bark. So we peel the bark off, and we always want to gather before it rains. The best time to gather is during the summertime, because the heat pushes the sap out of the tree, so causing it to run more. And so that's when we try to gather the most. One time we were out looking for the sap, and we were driving, and there was this old tree, and you could see the sap just running down on the side of it. And I got off and looked, and it had been running for, thank you. It had been running for years. And we dug it out, and it was just a pile of sap in there. So to us, that's like gold. You know, that's priceless right there. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like winning the lottery. So we dug it out, and we used that, and we obviously had to clean it because there was a lot of leaves and dirt and everything in there. So when we cook it in the house. So we get a big pot, a pot that we're not going to use because it's going to ruin it. But we get a big pot. We'll get the bark of with the sap on there, add water to it, boil it, and then strain it. I don't have a picture of that part, but we strain it with a cloth. No, we strain it with the screen first to get all the debris out, and then we'll strain it again with the cloth, and then that's where we end up with that in the pot. So after a big pot of boiling water, it'll boil down to probably about that much in the pot, but the amount in the jars. And every time you're making it, you have to test it. So you put it on a pot. My mom has testing pots, so we'll design it, put in the oven because the heat activates the sap, turning it black. If it's good, then that's great. If it's not, sometimes it'll come out dull, it'll come out watery. If it's like a dull black color, then we'll add this one here. Do you guys know what this is? The brown stuff? What does it look like? It's not candy. Although we used to eat that. Our people used to eat that too, like candy. But it's not sweet. It's a sap. It's like the honey-colored sap from the mesquite tree. Yeah. It's the honey-colored sap from the mesquite tree. So it's like crystals. And so we call this ana in Pee Posh. It's called ana, the black sap. So when the ana is dull in color, we'll add some of this honey-colored sap. We call this galish. And so we'll add this into the pot, boil it some more. But you can't add too much because then it turns into like syrup. And so you have to do it all over again. So once it's done, then we'll put them in containers, and they can be frozen. You can put them in the freezer. But if you're going to reuse them, every time you reuse them, it has to be reboiled again. And my mom calls this like an unstable product or ana, because once you reboil it and use it again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll flake, sometimes it won't stick, and it's the same batch. So it's very, very tricky, and it changes all the time. If somebody can figure out the science on that, let us know, because we haven't figured that out yet. But just know if you do make it, it's one day it may work, one day it may not. Even 1 hour. Like my mom was doing her designing, and it just started not sticking. And so she had to reboil it again, do it again, and try it. And yeah, it's just all trial and error with this one. But that's how we get the designs on the black pots there. Questions? Yes?
So your sap, you can just store it at room temperature too? Or,
Mm-hmm.
and then will it still change to how you first do it with your designs? Or?
It can change too. It can still change. And it can also get moldy. If it gets moldy, then you strain it. We usually use like a paper towel. It has to be the good brand, because if you use the cheap ones, it goes right through. But if you use we use a paper towel, and you can strain it with that, get the mold out, and if it's okay, then you test it, and if it's okay, then that's great. But if not, then you have to reboil it again, and then start again. Yeah?
So when you freeze it and you're going to reboil it again, how long does it take to thaw out?
It doesn't take very long. It's just like something that was frozen and you reboil it again. So it doesn't have to boil for like hours. It's just like thawing it out and letting it boil and then testing it. Testing is the key. You're always testing. They said that they used to use this on our hair. I haven't tried it yet, but they said it was used on our hair too. So I like my red. You can't tell it's red, but I like red. But once I decide to go back black, then I'll try it. Yes?
Can you eat that?
What's that?
Can you eat it?
You can eat this one.
Which
You can try it. It's very bitter. Very, very bitter. Yeah. You try it and let me know. But you can. If you're walking around with black teeth, then I'll know you tried it. But yes, this one, yeah, they used to eat this too. And again, it's not sweet, but it has like a little bit of a sweet taste, I guess you can say. Any other questions? No? Okay, so this is the designing stage. This is where you get very creative, or this is where your creativity shows, I guess you could say. Whether you're creative or not, this is where we're gonna see it. So that right here is the ana. What is the ana? What did I say it was? The sap, the mesquite sap, the ana. That's what we call in Pee Posh. This is what it looks like when it's applied before the firing. It's very light brown color. And when we design with a toothpick. We don't have paint brushes. We don't, yeah, it's a toothpick that's used to make all these designs here. So you have to have a steady hand and, you know, just, I mean, imagine a toothpick is very small. And so you're designing with that. When you're using this, the ana, it's compared to like watercolor. Have you ever drawn with watercolor? So it's like, you can manipulate it easily, but it's also sticky. You have to be very careful with this because if you mess up, it's permanent, very, very permanent. You can't take it off. You can't erase it and start over again, or you can't wipe it off and start over again. It's very permanent. And so if you mess up, you have to get creative and do something different. I had somebody that, we had one of our classes one time and they were designing and they kept messing up and he ended up having polka dots all over the pot. It's like, okay, whatever works. But this is what it looks like before. And another thing is too, when you're designing, you have to be careful with your fingers because you're holding the pot and you're going all around the pot. And if you touch it on the back side, it's sticky. So your fingerprints will be on there. You won't be able to see it right away, but when you fire it, you'll definitely see all your fingerprints and mistakes. And the pot right there on the right bottom is the wedding vase. That's my mom's. The top right is actually my oldest daughter. That was her very first design. To me, designing is very hard. It's very hard, and like you have to have a steady hand, and for her to grasp it like that, like I was so impressed. You can, in her pot, you can see her fingerprints on there too, but to come up to produce something like that, I was very, very impressed. But that was her very first designing. So in order to get the black enhanced on the pot, it does have to go through a second firing. The second firing doesn't have to be as hot as the first. The first one has to be very hot in order to bake the pot. The second one, all we're doing is activating the ana to turn it black. So they've done it, in the past they've done it outside, and it's pretty much just done with coals. It's not the full-on firing that we did the first time. It's done with just coals, and it's in there for like maybe not even 10 minutes, and it's that quick. So modern day, we put them in the oven at the highest temperature, and it does the same thing. And so I don't know about you, but 120 degrees in the summertime and playing with coals, I don't want to do that. So, but so we put them in the oven, and it does the same thing, and it turns it nice, black and shiny. And it's more controlled. When you put them in outside in the tub, you have to keep lifting to make sure it's changing, to make sure it's not over-baked. So one way that you can get the designs off the pottery is to refire it at a very, very high temperature, like how we did the first firing. And it will burn the design off the pot. That's the only way to take it off. You can't rub it off or anything. Firing is the only way to take it off. It'll still have like a little outline on it, so, but it'll burn off. Questions? Yes.
Does your family have like their own traditional design?
Yes. So the designs that we use are, a lot of the designs that are used are family designs. And so each family, potters can tell whose pots are whose by their designs. So when I see Barbara Johnson's pottery, I could tell it's hers because she has big, bold designs on hers. Ida Redbird, Mabel Sun, you can just tell by their style. So our style is very similar to this. With our designs, my grandma was a doodler, so she doodled my great-grandma's designs, Vesta, and so she would always write, she was always drawing, and she kept a book of all the designs, and we still have that book. And so my mom is a doodler as well, and she draws out the designs and everything too. So I can tell, sometimes, I can tell the difference between my grandma's and my mom's, because my mom has a little bit of a twist to hers. Hers is a little bit different, but it's the same. I mean, she can mimic my grandma's design very easily. And when we have our pottery classes and we have our designing time, that's what I tell our students is that you can look at the designs, you can draw something similar, but don't copy it exactly, because then you're kind of taking from them. You know, add your own little twist, add your own little mark, your own little uniqueness to your pot to make it yours. And the symbols on there, I mean, there's water designs, there's wind designs, mountains, I've seen clouds, rain, the pretty standard elements that people use. And then there's the family designs too. Yeah. So if you're getting tattoos, do some research and find out, you know, whose designs they are, or if they're a family design, or what they mean. But yes, that's a great question. Anybody else? Okay, so here's just a variety of pottery. This one here, these two are my mom's. So this is a huge vase, and that is a wedding vase. Who knows what a wedding vase is? Just by the name. A wedding vase is a vase that signifies the marriage. The spouts resemble the two, and then the band is the unity of the marriage. And so that is a wedding vase. Those are very, very complicated, hard to make, because they tend to break. The handles on top tend to break, either where it's joined or they'll crack, but those are one of the most complicated pots to make. And I'm gonna share, my grandma always said, if the marriage is meant to be, it's gonna survive the fire. Do we tell the person that it popped like 3 times? No. Just kidding. But maybe you can edit that, huh? Just kidding. But, and they do pop. So actually, these pots here, these are broken pieces. The red one, the handle popped. The plain one, the back cracked. And so the handle popped on there, and I have these in my house now called the divorce pots. So, and this is a long neck vase. Oh, that wedding vase over there, that one is my grandma's, my grandma Phyllis. That is in the Smithsonian, in the Native American Smithsonian in Washington. So that's there. These two, again, are my mom's. These are in the archives over in Salt River. In Salt River, they wanted a vase, a wedding vase, and a bowl. And so those are, because they break, she couldn't just make one, so she made 3. And one of them, no, 2. Two of them cracked, yeah, because they're both at the house. 2 of them cracked, and that was the only one that survived from there. And this one, she made 3 of these as well, and 3 bowls. And so these 2 are in the archives. The ones up there, the very top left, that is my great-grandma Vesta, and it has a little lizard on there. They put animals, they put lizards, frogs, they were very, very creative, very creative. That's what me and my mom were talking about right now. I was like, gosh, can you imagine how much time? Like they had a lot of time to do this. My mom, when she would make pottery, that's another thing, is that you have to be in the mood to make pottery. You can't be forced to make it. If you're forced to make it, it's frustrating, it's just doesn't work out right. But when my mom's in the mood to make them, and this was back when she was younger, she would be able to produce like 30 pots a night. Yeah, we'd wake up and like, oh my goodness, where all these potteries come from? And maybe they were stress pots, I don't know, but but she would be able to produce a lot, and it's just because she felt like it. She felt like making them, and but you know, just the time that it takes to make them, and when you get a chance to go back into the museum and look at the pots, they're so perfect. Like some of them are just so sleek and just perfect. They're beautiful. And but just the creativity that went into them too, because it's not just vases and bowls. They got very creative. There was oh, I'll do this one here next. But there's all kinds of creativity that went into them. The one up here on the top left, next to the lizard, next to my grandma's bowl, great grandma's bowl, that one is a two-tone pot, which you would see also. I think there's quite a few in here as well. Those are very complicated to make also, because the white we'll make a paint out of the caliche. So when we're digging it out, we choose the whitest part of the caliche, and we'll turn that into a paint, apply it onto the pot, and then polish that too. But because we don't want the two colors to mix, that's where it gets tricky. You have to make sure that you wash your hands. What do you do first, Mom? The red or the white? What do you prefer? Red. The red. So she'll do the red and wash her hands, wash all her materials, because the red can get into the white. So you have to keep everything separate on there. But that's how they make the white pots, is the whitest part of the caliche turned into paint. And stone polished as well. Okay, next. Talk about creativity, huh? Look at this one. This one amazed me right here. Like, wow, that's hollow. All of that is hollow. So I can't even imagine like how they would think of doing something like that. Because normally that's like a vase that goes up, but that's like a 3-neck vase kind of merged into one. But that one is unknown as to who made it, but it's very, very old. And we have Grace Monahan. We have her family here. This is actually Grace Monahan here as well, Linda Teresa Monahan. And this is, what is she to you? Grandmother. This is their grandmother's pot. Look how beautiful that is. How smooth. It's just beautiful to see. So that's hers. That over there is Grace's as well at the very end. That is a smaller pot. And I think it says 1970 on there. The one down here is my great-grandma Vesta. All of this is hollow. And so this is a lady with a pot on her head that's all connected. Those are very, very complicated to make. Can you imagine using your imagination and thinking, okay, this is where I see arms coming down. This is where I'm going to put the hands, the fingers, the eyes, the nose, the hair. You know, all of that goes into it, but that's just their imagination, their creativity within them. And then this one here is my great-grandma Vesta's and Mabel's son on here. This is beautiful too. It's a vase, but it has the two attachments on this side. And again, the two-tone that's on there. Very, very pretty. We do it in 4 days, but it's Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll go back to another Saturday and Sunday. And so there's certain things that are cut out in the class. Obviously, the digging out of the ground is cut out. We bring the clay, the dirt with us. And in the class, they're pounding, sifting, mixing that first day. The second day, they come back, because like I said, when we mix it, we have to wait a good 24 hours for it to settle and set. And so the next day, it'll be ready for making. So the next day is just pottery making, and they'll be able to produce as much pots from there. Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. Monica's sitting back there, so she's our coordinator with that. So I think that's a great suggestion. We definitely do that. Maybe like evening classes or something. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the goal when we have our classes, is to try to teach as many people as we can, because like I showed in the first slide, there's only, 5 of us that are doing it, and really 3 that are actively doing it. And so the goal is to teach people so that this doesn't die out. There's so much work involved in it that we have a lot of people that are interested, but when it comes time to when it comes down to doing it and finding out all that it entails to get it completely done from beginning to end, then they're like, that's a lot of work. I don't want to do that. Yes, Monica? Huh? Oh, FYI, we're having a class. We have our class that's starting Saturday and Sunday. This Saturday, Sunday, and then the 20, in 2 weeks? 21st and 22nd is the second session of it. But there are 2 openings that are still available. So if anybody's interested, talk to Monica.
Lucy, do you teach
Yes.
those classes, or is that somebody else?
My mom and I teach them, yeah.
Awesome.
And what else? Yeah, so there's a lot of work. I like, let's see if I get this right. Ron Carlos, he had mentioned in one of his videos, and he said the same thing, that there's a lot of people that want to do it, but when it comes down to finding out how much work it involves in this, like they don't do it. So he said, it was a quote from the Bible, that the spirit is willing, but the body is not. So I was like, yeah, that's very true. Very true. This was my grandma, my great-grandma, Vesta, and that is my grandma, Phyllis right now. This is a painting? That's not a painting, huh? It's a picture. Long time ago. It's very old. We probably should get it restored somehow, but that was my great-grandma, Vesta, and then my grandma in her yard holding her pots, because somebody probably forced her to take a picture. She's like, hurry up. But they're very, very humble people, and I know they had interviewed my grandma one time, and they called her a great artist, and she's like, I don't see myself as a great artist. I just do it because I want to do it. And she's like, but I've never thought of myself like that. And that was my grandma. There was also another quote right here. That was by Ida Redbird, and she spoke of Mary Wan, and it says, she's very shy and her English isn't that good. She's really a better potter than I am, but I've always talked too much, so I got all the publicity. And I told my mom, I was like, hey, that's like me and you. My mom doesn't like to talk either, and I'm the chatterbox over here. And so that is our family legacy, and that is our history on Maricopa Pottery, Pee Posh Pottery. And again, if anybody's interested, there are 2 spots open in the next class. Talk to Monica. And thank you guys for having the interest in coming out tonight and taking the time out of your busy schedules to come out and learn a little history on the Pee Posh Pottery. And yeah, next time you see a pot, I'm sure you'll think differently on what it takes to make it. And you'll look into more detail, especially when you see some like these, the Maricopa ones. Like the detail of, like I said, the strokes that are taken onto the pot, and all the work that it entails. And so I know a lot of people tend to have a little more appreciation for the pottery when they find out all the work that it takes. Yes, Missy?
Do you guys do like the cooking pots?
I have not, but we do have somebody here in the house that does. Mr. August Wood, he's made the cooking pots before, and he does a beautiful job. He gifted us one recently, and my mom made beans out of there, and it tastes so good. It's an earthy taste to it. it's a little bit different, but the salt came out of the pot too, like from the water, I guess. But it's very good. Even with water that's stored in the oyas, if you ever get a chance to taste it, it's different. So the oyas work as like a filtration system of its own. So it pulls the salt out of the water, so it definitely changes the taste of the water.
My
Yes.
grandma had a cooking pot, and she used to cook our beans in it, and it was good.
Yeah.
She had one that she just boiled her water on, like for dishes and stuff.
Yeah,
So we put them with her when we put her to rest. So.
yeah, exactly. Oh, well, that is my goal, is to make one of those pots too. I know my mom's probably getting tired of me saying that. It's like, you keep saying that, but don't do it. But it is a goal, is to make an oya in a cooking pot. So I'll get there. Any questions? No? Well, again, thank you guys very, very much for coming out. If you want to take part in that class, talk to Monica. And yes, one more.
Does your mom have anything?
My mom's shy. No, this is my mom right here. Stand up, Mom. My mom, my mom, my mom is a very, very talented lady and a perfectionist too herself. Very organized too. And it was funny because my sister had said, "How does it feel to have two procrastinating daughters?" And it was like, probably frustrating. And this is my sister right here. She always says, no, everybody always knows me as Lucy's sister, but this is actually her, my sister Jessica, and her husband and her kids right here, Jasenia and Jessica. I don't know where Jalissa went. And then this is my daughter, Taylor, here. And Taylor is also learning as well. The kids learn too. Jessica and Jasenia, they all come, they'll help out, they'll make some potteries. My sister's really good at polishing the pots. And so it's definitely getting passed along and into the next generation as well. So like I said, that's the goal, is just to keep it going. You know, when we do this, when we hold the classes, it's a good humbling feeling to know that our family tradition is getting passed on along. And my grandma did the same thing. My grandma held classes all over the place at different museums with that in mind as well. And so I feel very grateful to be able to do the same thing. So if there isn't any more questions.
Great job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.